Basement breakthrough, how to finish your builder grade basement, and how do you do it the right way, and what are some questions that you should be asking before you even start on your basement and your husband comes home with a bunch of lumber. He's moving all the stuff out of the basement and he's like, this weekend we're building this thing. And then you're over 3 years later. I am not talking about myself directly, but it is me. 3 years later, you have storage built, you have walls that are almost built, and electrical that is slightly ran, but I have not had enough time to finish my own basement. But beyond that, I am joined here with Ariella.
Hi, my name is Ariella. So Justin and I have been married about 12 years. We worked together about half of that, maybe less than half of that. And one of my roles at XtraMile is to help our clients with the design and selections. I get to hear their ideas and bring those to life by showing them a physical representation of that and then getting that information over to our project management team.
Yeah. So a couple things I think are really important that we may need to get into before we go through the whole slide is one is builder grade homes. Are they like, I feel like they do, some of them do have a stigma for a reason, but it's kind of interesting because like this couple that this is, there's a couple situations I'm thinking of, but one of the couples that we just helped have been in their house for 20 something years, right? They bought it and they knew it was a nice home. They knew it was but it was done by a larger builder. And so what would happen is that at the time they never finished their basement for like 20 years. And then now that their kids are older, they're like, we're gonna decide to finish the basement. And I think the thought process through this is so important because a lot of times people don't pull the trigger because they're like, oh, it's just a basement. I'm going to have it for storage. But I think if you have a family that's growing, the opportunity that you see to have spaces more individually used for birthdays, for, different events, there's a lot more that can go into a basement than just, oh, it's two bedrooms and a living room. It can create a totally new way that you connect in your home. And Ariella.
Okay. Yes. So we're excited to go over our presentation that Louis has helped put together. It's about 7 minutes, and we're going to walk through things to prepare for when you're looking to do a basement remodel.
So let's do a quick overview of this space. So this space is in Otsego-ish, Rogers-ish. It's mainly Otsego. So you can walk down the stairs. The upstairs is all golden oak, right? You walk down the stairs. They have the furnace utility room, and then they have come down here. That's kind of a big space, and then they have a storage room, which before this was kind of all just going to be one big storage room, possibly, but I'm going to get into the framing here in a second. Then you have living room, the wet bar area, gym, really big bathroom. So really there is four main components of this basement. So a couple things before, if you're a husband out there and you're like, I want this finished, kids are going downstairs, I'm having an upstairs that's quiet. Before you start any of those things, there's a couple things that we need to do. And this is a great time to plug our checklist. So when we're going down into this basement, right, these are the couple things that I am thinking about, and my team is being trying to think about. Is one is so when we're going into a space, room and layout and purpose. So a lot of times we can get the layout and say this is the living room, this is the wet bar area and whatnot. But a lot of times we don't always think about the overall purpose for that, right? So for example, a bedroom or a bedroom. Is it only a bedroom, or do we need to make it in a way that somebody can have a desk in there because it's the only space that they have to do homework, right? Wet bar. Does it only need to be a wet bar, or do we need an island because it's going to be the second hangout of where everyone hangs out coming in and out from outside, right? So the other part here, do you want the layout that flows from the upstairs or a new vibe? Ariella, can you hit on this?
Okay, perfect.
So, Ariella, I got a question. So I kind of know my layout of what I want in my basement, right? Do
Okay.
I need to match the flow with the upstairs and to the downstairs, or can I do a new vibe and a new color? So, for example, I got golden oak upstairs. I want to do something different downstairs. What's kind of the rule of thumb that I can use?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and really both are okay, both are right. Um, but what we encourage our clients is to step a little bit outside of what they're comfortable with and just allows a little bit of creativity so we can really bring to mind that space they're visualizing, which might mean not matching the trim, not matching the doors, not matching the color, and even introducing a new floor. And we think it's okay. They're two separate spaces, two separate purposes, and all the basements that we've done, we feel like they look really beautiful, even when they're not an exact match of what's in the primary
Almost,
living levels.
yeah, almost every basement we have ever done does
Yeah,
not match the primary level. Even those that
yeah,
have white trim upstairs, we do something different downstairs.
yeah,
I think that's a really good concept. The other one I think that we may want to add into this. Here's another question. So, based on now that I kind of know I don't want to match the upstairs or I do want to match the upstairs, what is your thought on this? I think a lot of people invest in their basements for the resale value, so they keep it as plain and minimum as possible. They're like
yeah,
bedroom, living room, bedroom. What is your thought? Obviously we're not realtors, right? But
yeah.
like I think after finishing, we've done quite a bit of basements together. What do you think the general feeling of the homeowner is? Are they happy that they did it just to sell,
Yeah.
or should they do something that's for them?
That's a great question. I feel like our go-to answer when homeowners ask us that is like, I'm not a realtor. I can connect you with a couple that can give you some feedback on what that looks like for resale value. As a contractor, my job is um, to make that space beautiful, work within the budget and bring my client's vision to life. So typically I try to direct them that way. It's like, even if you're living here 5 to 10 years, that's a very long time to enjoy a space that you're investing in. So have it reflect who you are. And most of the changes, if somebody can come in and change the trim and the paint color and not have it be a tremendous amount of investment since everything else is already finished. So we typically encourage clients to do what they love and they're comfortable with a budget, and we get to be creative within that. Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah, and I think it's funny because I was thinking about this with our own house because sometimes we were talking like, well, what if they don't like that we open up? I'm like, but it's funny because we like it. So
Yeah,
there's 20,000 people out in Elk River alone, and a lot of them are looking to buy houses, and I promise you, someone's going to see value in the way that we see it. And I think a lot of times, especially early on in our careers when we helped people with their basements, they fell in love with something and they ended up adding it later. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's
yeah,
kind of weird that like we could have helped them, we should have helped them, but we were nervous in giving that opinion. So the
yeah,
other thing beyond the room layout, which a lot of times, you have a load bearing wall, yeah, things that are kind of there. This is such an important spot to talk about is maybe it's even bigger than the room layout is the tub, shower, built-ins, if you're doing soundproofing, and then also if you're doing like we've done saunas, we're doing a wine room, done cool things like that. So in the checklist, right, after the room layout, you're kind of going through what matching, whatnot, is the fixtures. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but the fixtures is something that it definitely needs to be stated before you frame the way that you do showers, vanities, stuff like that. We've constantly we're getting better, but we have run. This is like one of the biggest things that we run into is that the
yeah,
framing for a shower needs to be 60 inches, but we did 59 and a half because the specs were said this, but it should have been 60. But anyways, it's just little
yeah.
things like that.
So typically what we aim to do is get all of our selections made, all of our fixtures selected, shower surround or tile, any selection really, even to the paint color. We try to have those done before even we start framing and electrical and any of the mechanical work. That's not always the case, but we aim very like very strongly to get those done because then there's less chances that there's an opportunity for a change order or an unexpected cost because something doesn't fit because everything is planned and included into the quote already. So that helps alleviate frustration and gives clients peace of mind. We found when we get everything out of the way right away.
Yeah. And another one, right? So going through the checklist, this one's really important. Seems kind of simple because people are like, oh, I just need carpet. But it's like room by room, break it down, main room, bathroom, bedroom. What spots are going to be having these finishes? So it's a bathroom, right? Tile or luxury vinyl. Just some of those questions, they matter so much, and we overlook it sometimes because it's such we feel like we get into a routine. The other one is the electrical is a huge topic I'm not even going to get into. There's for example, panel space, 100 amp, 150, 200 amp. And is it going to be enough for what you're looking for in the basement? But the other part here is design style. Do you want to hit on a little bit of that? And what are some ways to kind of like if you were to go into our basement, right? And it was the first time you finally thought like I'm gonna start finishing this, and you kind of you haven't really thought about budget, so you're just trying to see where things land. What are like
Yeah.
the three things you would do in order to get that answer?
Um, as a homeowner,
No, just like, yeah, you as a homeowner. Yeah, that
okay.
makes sense. Yeah, you as a homeowner.
I would put together a mood board. I like to start that with visuals of what I want it to look like. I know that I want it to feel open and airy and calm and inviting at the same time. I know that I want different areas for people to be entertained at the same time. So I know I want a sitting area, a game, um, hangout area, a bar area, just different areas where people can mix and mingle and feel like they're part of whatever it is that we may be hosting.
Mhm.
And from there, the next step would be to like reach out to a contractor and provide them ideas. And I would recommend like get get well, if you have roughly a budget in mind, let them know what your budget is. Um,
Yeah.
or have everything that you want budgeted out, just knowing that later on you may have to edit and remove things from that scope.
Yeah, and that's a question. I mean, we've covered it on a couple other things, but one of the questions is like when a contractor comes in, obviously we're contractors, so we have
Yeah.
is like, do we tell them exactly how much we want to pay? Because we've had customers that are like, well, you tell us first. I'm like, that's fine. This is what I would put. But the problem is if you don't have a price breakdown of, for example, what's being put in there. If it's just like this basement's gonna be 75 grand or 150,000.
Yeah.
What's the detail of the breakdown? Because like you could actually get closer possibly to your budget when you actually say this type of cabinet versus this.
Yeah.
It takes more time, but I think that's just something to
I
kind of,
think, oh, sorry, Justin. I think when we have what we do is when we go on job sites or when we get called to take a look at a space, we can give somebody a rough ballpark number. This is not written, not in an estimate or anything. We can tell them to finish it, standard finish. You have a bathroom standard everything right. It's going to be between 80,000 and then $100,000, right? With everything else you want to add in between,
yeah.
like that's where a lot of variables can happen and a lot of change needs to be made to the budget. So knowing right away where you stand with your budget, you're like, okay, I am at $75,000. With contractors like a company like us, we could our goal is how much can we give you within that 75,000? Like how creative can I get within that? I think I really enjoy once I have that budget because I like to push it to the limit to give my clients the most that they can get within that budget.
Yeah, and I'm on the middle side of that
Yeah.
is like because we've given a lot of value back, but sometimes it's gotten to the point that like we end our timelines get really pushed back
Maybe.
because I haven't put my foot down on something that I should have, and then the rest of my projects get hit by it. Not speaking from experience or trauma. So the the other thing that I wanted to hit on lastly here is before we get into the other part is so design style. The other one is ceiling plan and head height. So do you need to do a drop ceiling? Do you need to do drywall ceiling? I think all those matter most on the age and type of your house. So for example, if you have an older home with a bunch of stuff that's hanging in there and you got to see it and shut offs and stuff like that, drop ceiling is a really good opportunity for you. If it's a house that is older, but we're able to have head height and then also the turnoffs for some of the utilities, you can get up there and turn it or relocate it. By that turn it, I mean like you can put a vent or like cover it somehow and know where it is and not rip out drywall, then the drywall will work. The one thing is the exposed ceiling with paint. We haven't seen too much of it, but I hope we do because I've seen some really cool opportunities with that. Not all of them, sometimes not at all. But what are some of your thoughts?
There's a lot of options. You can be limited obviously by however your house was built and framed, but within that, there's still, like you're mentioning, a lot of options, and we can be creative with that.
Mhm.
So I
So
think you covered it pretty well there.
yeah. Okay. So lastly, we have our draw your floor plan. This is pretty self-explanatory. What you're gonna do is two ways you can do this. One is you can use pen and paper. The other one is that you can cut a piece of paper into little squares and then use it to do a layout. So for example, if you have this, I cut a little square here, a little square here for like the living room area, and then I have the bedroom. This way you can move it around without having to erase everything unless you have a lot of paper. I personally I use that quite a bit to explain spacing for people's houses. But anyways, and we are ready. Okay, so basically let's go through this. We got a couple minutes left. So this is the before of our project. As you can see, it was built, I believe, in like 2000 something, like maybe 2008. And they had a big center wall. And then what you can't quite see in this photo is above the wet bar, there's actually a large soffit that most people get really nervous about a soffit over area. I don't think I have a picture of this soffit, but Ariella, can you just go through like I remember there's a couple conversations that we had with our client that really stood out to me. What was some that stood out to you?
I
Just
think the biggest parts was knowing that they wanted it to be a really fun place for both the parents, adults, and for their kids that are growing older. They want it to be a fun place where people wanted to be there and hang out together and be entertained and have multiple areas where different activities could happen. So I think you nailed that right away. Justin is figuring out the layouts of where you wanted things to be placed, and they were super happy with that. And then I went in and then I made it just really pretty.
one other thing too we should definitely hit on is they were nervous about the bowling alley look. I don't know if you've ever gone to a basement and the TV, you're like you get there and the TV's like way on the other side and there's nothing. There's just these walls and then it's just one long stretch. So that was one thing that I think Ariella and our homeowners approving it killed it on this one. It's the same space that this stretch is so long, but it's broken up without having soffits, without doing floor transitions, and obviously looks gorgeous. So how
Yeah.
about
I
talk
think
to me a little bit about the soffit? Uh,
Well, I think the way that we ended up doing the soffit, it didn't draw attention to it. And we incorporated it into the design. It didn't take away from anything. But going back to the bowling alley look, what we did to avoid that feel here is typically we're oh, you keep moving.
sorry.
So where that island is right there, we placed it like almost right in the middle of the room. So that creates a nice traffic flow around it, which is really beautiful. And it draws your eyes, it attracts you to that area. It kind of makes it its own space, but it kind of also divides the other areas, which is really fun. So that was a really fun way that we used
Yeah.
to make that space and use it. in other projects that we've done, I feel like maybe we could have capitalized on that opportunity by doing something like that instead of being like afraid that the flow would be ruined.
Yeah.
It's like there's still plenty of flow.
And another thing, this one might be a decent thing to replay is with that space. One thing I remember hearing recently, because I was thinking about doing a similar thing in a different basement, and the person's like, "Well, what about the sconce lighting? What about the accent lighting? It's 8 foot ceilings. I'm gonna hit it." And my belief now is starting to change so much more. It's like, our accent lighting and sconce lighting, do you need it for every table you have? No, I don't think so. I think it's something that we may need to know is like, the table lighting area for the candlelights, but it's like in our culture, so many times they're like, put something above the table so you know where it's at, but I don't think it's always necessary. And I know Ariella just had to drop off here, but what do you have? Are you opposite opinion of me in that? Just curious.
I love accent lighting, but I agree with you. Like, it's not always necessary. Like in a basement, like you can add lamps to make that moody feel that you want.
Mhm.
So it's not like it wasn't necessary to have pendants over that island, I think.
Yeah.
It could
And
have
that
been
was what
cool,
we were
but not
asked. Like,
necessary.
yeah, they're like, why? Well, shouldn't we do it? I'm like, I don't think so. And they're tall people, right? So, and I always think it's weird. I don't, have you guys ever had that where like you're at the aisle, like you're sitting somewhere and then there's like lights like here and you're looking here? You know what I'm talking about? Like, I just think it's kind of funny. But what?
I mean, in that case, you just make them a little bit shorter. I think they could still look beautiful. It's people's preference, but it's not.
In 10 years, I think they're going out of style.
What? Stop it.
Just
That's
joking.
all right. What's next on your slide there?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, 2 minutes
Oh,
left, sir.
okay. Arches. Tell me about the arch and this wall.
Yeah, great question there. We knew that, well, we had the whole big back wall to use, but also we had put our budget into, custom cabinets and tile and all these really fun things. So a creative way to take up that entire wall and still make it a statement wall was to do some more drywall labor and framing, get some floating shelves, and do less custom cabinets and put him just between those arches, which was I think was a really fun way to fill the space.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think too, if you were to look at it from like what's it called? TLC or like a larger organization of HGTV and stuff like that, I think this space would have would have been like straight, no angles, because you have no angles anywhere else in the basement. Every corner, every opening doesn't have round things. So I feel like I remember we were telling some of our team about this, like why it doesn't match anything. But I think that's the point. It's
Yeah,
not like we have come to play so safe with just like keeping everything matches. Like this soffit here and that opening should have matched the the arch. Doesn't matter. Like I have actually when we're doing this, one of our guys asked me like, "Hey, we should arch everything." I'm like, they don't have a lot of head height for like walking through, so why arch it? So now that we've gone through this, how to finish your builder grade basement the right way? Give me the first thing that you think would be the first step.
the first thing is get your ideas together, the mood board. How do you want it to feel down there? How do you want to entertain? In what areas do you envision having in the basement? What's number two for you, Justin?
Yeah, number two, I think, is somebody else's opinion other than your husband's and your wife. By that, I mean, I'm not talking about style, I'm talking about layout wise. So, this layout in here, the spot that we didn't really go over is the bathroom. The layout for the bathroom was actually different than what we did. And the other one, that little nook for the gym, and then another nook, because that was supposed to be a bedroom technically, and the other nook for where the pictures are. So the way that it's laid out, you may have to use the walls that are there, for example, load bearing walls, but there's opportunity to do minor adjustments that you can create space somewhere else. So that's my number two is you got what ask the question, what am I not seeing? What's
Yeah.
number three for you?
Number three for me is, well, start getting different quotes. We recommend that you get two or three quotes from different contractors. I think that's super helpful. And then it gives you peace of mind of you're like, hey, this is my budget, this is what I want to spend, this is what the market says the value is for a basement, reconcile that, and then move forward with the contractor you would like to work with, obviously. And
Yeah.
what's number four for you?
Yeah, number four. So I
Yeah.
think number four for me, coming from the contractor side, looking in, is the life investment value. So for example, this space for 20 years was never used, right? Besides storage. And at least that's what I know of, right? And now for the next, if they stay there for 5, 4, 6, 7 years, now it's somewhere that's going to be used. Like, I think it's funny that we do basements during the winter because it's inside work, going to make sense. But that's when you want to spend time in there.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I would say is like, take out a piece of paper, sit down with your significant other and your kids, and be like, you're 10 now. You need your own space. How do I create a space that makes you want to stay home more than be at your friends? Not that your friends are bad, but there's just something different. I remember my house was a hangout house, and we had a finished basement, and it was just big couch, TV, but that's where we hung out. And now looking back, like my dad had wanted to make a movie theater and all this stuff, and eventually he started to move towards those things. But I think that's just something I think we overlook is this house when they purchase it, the basement, and then what they're going to be uh, selling this house at is one of the investments. But better yet is the investment of the time of the family, hanging out there, enjoying the space, putting the pictures up on the walls, watching the the Timberwolves lose and then win, and the life things. That's my fourth one.
I love that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then to wrap it up, Justin, is we'll be sharing the PDFs of the checklist. We have a more detailed checklist of all the things and selections that need to
So
be in
detailed.
the basement. So if you want that, we can make that accessible to you. And then, but I think you have two PDFs you're going to share from this,
Yep.
you know.
So remember, so if you're interested, maybe you should put the PDFs at the this part of it. So for being here, we want to send a thank you, a free gift, just like any other major guru influencer does. And so you have the checklist, and then also the draw your floor plan, and then you even get Mr. Copperpenny trainings checklist to keep your house safe. General tips for home safety, and he's a guy that we had on. He's incredible, 34 years of law enforcement and helping people, plus now like 10 years of training.